Marvel's Avengers, released in September of 2020, published by Square Enix and developed by Crystal Dynamics. This game allows you to play as the Earth's mightiest heroes as they must repair their broken image after a devastating event during their A-Day celebration. The end result was an absolute disaster. Not only was the game advertised as a live service model, which is an automatic red flag in and of itself, not only did it launch in a very poor state with glitches, bugs, frame rate drops, and crashes, but the game itself was just badly made altogether. The levels are shoddily designed, the bosses are non-existent, the loot system is horrible, the replayability value is minimal, the content is dry, and when they did add more content, it wasn't all that good. And don't think for a second I'm gonna forget about this game's egregious monetization practices that makes EA's loot boxes look like a free giveaway. Critics hated it. Fans hated it, its player base dropped to 96%, lobbies are getting harder to find, its roadmap had to be pushed back indefinitely, and the game, 2 months into its launch, still struggled to make back its absurdly high development costs. Now, you'll probably think this is merely a launch issue and that the game probably is in a better state, but no one's willing to give it a second shot. And you'd be wrong. Just recently, the game has come under fire for introducing a bug that doxes the player's IP address on screen for anyone to see if they are streaming. How does that happen? If you ask me, Marvel's Avengers is looking to become yet another Anthem situation, where they think they'll be able to keep the game alive despite losing money and players every single day, that they think they'll be able to win back players' trust with the promises of DLCs and expansions that might otherwise never see the light of day. I don't know why they thought this whole live service thing was a good idea in the first place. They had to have known what happened to Anthem when it first launched and how they tried to win back players with the promises of an Anthem 2.0 similar to what No Man's Sky did 5 years ago. And how well did that work out for them? Oh yeah, they shut it down development after only 2 years. So how am I supposed to believe that Avengers will not meet that same fate in a few years? Now, many of you might be asking, why am I talking about a completely different game that's not at all what the title says? I can assure you, it's not shitty YouTube clickbait, but it's to get an idea of how badly this Avengers game has went down for everyone involved, and if Square Enix is gonna do anything to fix their tainted image in the eyes of Marvel fans across the gaming community. Because with this upcoming game that we're gonna be talking about in a couple of seconds, it does seem like they have learned their lesson. E3 just happened not too long ago, and while there wasn't a lot for me to talk about in terms of the showcases, Microsoft and Bethesda really were the only ones that actually felt like a showcase, Square Enix revealed one title that, to be perfectly honest, kinda had me intrigued, and that title is Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh yeah, I don't think any of us expected them to have another Marvel title in the works. The way I saw it, it seemed like Marvel was looking to branch out their IPs to multiple different developers and publishers so everyone can create their own unique version of whatever Marvel property they were allowed to make. So, what can we talk about relating to this game? Well, after I saw the multiple reactions to this reveal trailer, I thought it would be good to make a video that gets a good idea on the current situation between Square Enix and their fanbase, as well as talking about why I personally think, unlike Marvel's Avengers, which was pretty much doomed from the start, Guardians of the Galaxy might actually have a chance here. I know already that there are going to be a lot of comparisons made between this game and the Avengers, and that might be enough to turn some people off. But before you do that, there are 4 very important things you must know about Guardians of the Galaxy that makes this title different from the Avengers. Number 1, different developers. This may not sound like a significant change to some, but I might as well mention it anyway. Crystal Dynamics is the developer of Avengers. They were also the people who made the Tomb Raider Survivor trilogy. Eidos Montreal is the developer for Guardians of the Galaxy, along with being the main developers for Deus Ex Human Revolution and Mankind Divided. Despite being published by the same company, whatever ideas Eidos Montreal might have for the game will be different from Crystal Dynamics. But I'll get into that later when I eventually talk about my personal opinions on the game. Number 2. Guardians of the Galaxy is single player only. This is the most controversial part of the game's reveal. This is a Guardians of the Galaxy game, and yet the only character you'll be able to play is Star-Lord. Now that doesn't sound very good. However, we must remember that Eidos Montreal have made single-player titles before, so I have no doubt they'll be able to make this aspect of the game work, despite the fact that you're limited to only one character in the team. Marvel's Avengers, by all rights, continues to struggle with its 4-player cooperative experience, not just from the fact that you can't find a goddamn lobby of randoms to play with now, and a solo mode? Clearly, that was an afterthought, as the entire game was obviously built around cooperative play. If I am promised a comic book game with the same single-player experience as Spider-Man PS4, then so what if Star-Lord is the only playable character? At least I don't have to deal with that all-online bullshit. Number 3. No purchasable skins, mods, or upgrades. Let's face it. Marvel's Avengers is super bad with their microtransactions. I'm talking about $12 emotes, $14 legendary skins, $1 decals for each set, and all of those MCU skins you die-hard fans were waiting so long to get in the game? Well, guess what? None of them can be unlocked via gameplay. You have to pay premium currencies in order to get them. I can hear Insomniac crying in utter pain in the distance. While Guardians of the Galaxy does have some skins to unlock, it seems like they will be unlocked via gameplay, as they should. I'm not sure if these costumes will have their own special abilities or are just pure cosmetics to make your characters look cooler or more accurate to some of the other comic book designs. But as long as I don't have to empty my bank account for some stupid decals or bundles just to get a single item I actually want, it's good enough for me. Lastly, and this is the most important change of them all, no live service model and no DLC. Eidos Montreal has gone on record to say that Guardians of the Galaxy is not a live service title, nor will the game get any post-launch DLC. No drips of content every week, no roadmaps for major events. They want all of the content to be available for all players on day one. Well, ain't that just the biggest fuck you from the Avengers? Live service models are a poison to your game's success at this point. We've gone through too many failures for this type of model to ever be trusted again. It's such a failure that even EA, the slimiest sons of bitches in the gaming industry, had to overhaul their Dragon Age 4 title to remove the live service model entirely. And this is what I meant when I said it seemed like Square Enix did learn their lesson. They could easily monopolize this game to hell and back. To be fair, there's a slim chance they might still do that, but they chose not to. Instead, what you get in the box is the entire experience. So to recap, Guardians of the Galaxy is a single-player only title that has no purchasable cosmetics, no live service models, no plans for future DLCs, and will have all content available on day one. Sounds like they have a winner on their hands. But why am I so interested in this game? I'm not even that much of a Guardians fan. I've always seen one of their movies and that's it. What is it about this game that makes me so curious to try it out when it releases? Let's go back to Marvel's Avengers. To beat the dead horse further. One of my biggest complaints about the game, aside from the obvious, is that it looked so uninspiring. I mean, a cooperative Marvel game where you could choose 4 characters to use on whatever mission you want to play? We literally had this last year. And what exactly is the point of choosing multiple different characters if you only have 6 in your roster? Looking kind of limited, aren't we? If they had more characters than that, I'd probably be more forgiving. But combine that with a genre that's been done much better in other Marvel titles, well, that's just the blandest ice cream sundae you can ever give me. Guardians of the Galaxy, while it is your standard third-person shooter / action game, has a few things in it that stood out the most to me. I may be very wrong on this part, but this to me looks like they're going for an action RPG style Marvel game. You can command your teammates to perform some attacks on enemies, gain experience along the way. They did say this game might be open world, so I'm certain you'll have multiple encounters of high level enemies depending on how far you're into the game. And the one other mechanic they introduced that really caught my eye is choices. In Guardians, you have the option to make choices that can either affect your story in a small way or a big way. Say I wanted to be a complete asshole to everyone I meet, as I often do in RPG games. There's a good chance my bad behavior will cause a falling out within the group and paint me as public enemy number 1. Or if I choose one character over the other, as you see here, my partnership with one of them might be severely affected and I might risk either losing them or making them my most trusted ally. Anybody else getting some Spider-Man Web of Shadows vibes? I've been waiting for a Marvel game to do this kind of gameplay again, where the outcome of the story depends on the player's actions. And for Guardians of the Galaxy, there is so much story potential you can have with that. I, of course, don't prefer all my games to be this way, but it's nice to at least have the option to choose the ending you believe is good for the characters you've been so invested in. And that is why I find this title more intriguing than the Avengers. But if it's not to you, believe me when I say I don't blame you. Marvel's Avengers has left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. So much so that they won't be willing to give Square Enix the second chance even if they're going out of their way to make this title different from their previous one. It all comes down to execution. There's a strong chance that everything good I said about Guardians of the Galaxy will be for nothing, because the game itself might turn out to be shit. But there is that possibility that it can actually work. Avengers could have been a great title, even after everything I said about it. But it simply wasn't. It's a terribly flawed game that, in my opinion, has no way to recover unless they pull out Final Fantasy XIV and redo everything from the ground up, which I doubt will happen again. You may not be convinced, and that's alright. I'm also a little bit cautious myself, which is why I might wait for the reviews until I decide on whether or not I want to purchase the game. But I do hope this game can redeem Square Enix and we don't have to deal with another video game failure of the year. Who am I kidding? That's gonna happen anyway, but I hope this title in particular doesn't get put into everyone's crosshairs. And that is all I have to say. So of course, I ask you guys, what do you think of Square Enix's upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy game? Do you believe it will wash the bad taste of Avengers out of your mouth? Or do you think it will further destroy your taste buds? Also, what do you expect to see in the game when it eventually launches? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching, and Square Enix, please, don't screw this one up.